The Rowan Brothers, what was tempting about producing that? That is a mercurial album, to say the least. It's interesting, because you... Yeah. So can you talk about...
Well, see, that would have been around 1971, 72.
Yep.
And, you know, bluegrass music, it just hadn't... I wasn't burned out on it, but, I mean, it wasn't offering me any opportunities to make a living. And by that time, I had 2 kids, and, you know, I was... the popular music of the late 60s, I mean, the the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, you know, it was kind of a fertile time for a lot of experimentation with
Hendrix,
that. Yeah, Jimi Hendrix, and just a lot of the fusion music, you know, there was a lot going on.
Sure.
And some really good musicians, and a friend of mine named Richard Loren, who just wrote a book.
I want to talk to Richard,
yeah,
the former...
I'm sure he'll talk to you.
Yeah, right.
He was my agent in Earth Opera in 67, 68, and we became friends, and we talked about... I had made some recordings in a studio in Boston just for the heck of it, putting different groups of musicians together. And Chris Rowan, I'd met both of Peter Rowan's younger brothers, and they both were writing really good songs. Mm-hmm. And I did recorded Chris Rowan doing one of his songs, and I decided, and they were all on their own. You know, Lauren Rowan had his little group. He had a really talented piano player,
Bill Stevenson?
No, Bill Stevenson was in the Earth Opera. This was another guy, Bill Elliott, I think.
Bill Elliott, interesting.
I think that was his name.
Interesting.
And they had a duo, and Chris Rowan had a little group, and I got the idea of putting them together, kind of like Everly Brothers of the of the 1970s or something. Right. And you know, and there was another artist named Jack Bonus who had played with Earth Opera. He was a really good saxophone player, but he was a great singer, and he had some good. He was writing really good songs, and we decided to form this production company and try to produce. You know, it was obviously pop music of a certain kind, but mm-hmm. It was music.
I mean, it's still. For me, that album, it's an acquired taste. It's a very interesting album, and
I've heard it in years.
And most people talk about it as a.
It was a big failure. I mean, a commercial failure.
Right, and those things often they come around in history and resonate.
And that was the end of my career in producing pop records. But hey, I did get Jim Keltner, and you know, I thought. You know, it was a good album, I thought.
You know, Keltner was a jazz snob.
Wow.
I mean, this guy would sit in the front row of the Dragonwick Club in Los Angeles and watch Charles Lloyd and Bobby Hutcherson play. Wow. Lloyd dubbed them the modern jazz proteges.
Wow.
But then Keltner, like you, young family, had to support the family.
Yeah.
Hal Blaine gave his first...
He's one of the few musicians who had a really amazing sense of time.
Well, I mean, but nobody knows this, but you go to Gabor Zabel albums, who's drumming on them? Keltner. Claire Fisher albums, like contemporary, it's Keltner. So his background was in jazz, which is just great. I just love the fact that, regardless of the Rowan Brothers album, to bring in cats like Keltner who were jazz lovers, you know, and they could swing and they could feel.
Yeah.
That you put that into any other.
But he was really, I mean, at that time, you know, he was playing on John Lennon's record. He had that like Ringo Starr thing, but he kind of had. And you know, another band that I really dug at that time was the Mad Dogs and Englishmen, who I went to see several times.
Really?
And they had 2 drummers, you know, Jim Gordon and Jim Keltner.
And
Leon Russell.
They had double drums at that time?
Yeah, that was an amazing band.
Well, I mean,
Joe
we're learning.
Cocker, we're learning.
I mean,
Leon Russell,
You know, I wanted to ask you if you could talk to the audience, maybe even demonstrate on the mandolin. Part of what in my intro, you came up with this song called "Limestones."
Oh yeah,
which is
actually we opened the show with that now.
good. It's Limehouse Blues,
Yeah,
a fusion of that and Milestones,
yeah.
and I'd like you to take us through how you came up with the two concepts to fuse it to the song, and maybe show.
I don't know how I did that, but just change the string. So, well, Limehouse Blues kind of goes like. Etc. You know, and you know, Milestones kind of goes. So I kind of combined elements from both of them and got. It's also the harmonic, the chords, it's D7th and an A7th, you know, but and just having a, you know, we started with that kind of like sing, sing, sing kind of tom-tom, Gene Krupa.
The war cry kind of thing, yeah, right.
And then we go into a kind of hard swing bop groove.